The procedure for this evening will be prepared speeches. Then there will be answers to those questions if you wish to answer, speakers. And then there will be a rebuttal from the speakers in the opposite order that they speak this evening. And then, time being possible, there will be an opportunity for questions from the floor. At this stage, I give you Anna Hawke, our incumbent Member of Parliament for Tukituki. Welcome, Anna.
Good evening, and as your local member for Tukituki, I would like to thank Karamu Rotary Club for hosting tonight's event, and which will raise a lot of money for Cyclone Gabrielle. And I'd also like to thank you for the support you do in the community. It is phenomenal, and thank you from me. I'd also like to welcome the candidates as new candidates in the Tukituki debate. My job is to get things done for Tukituki and to keep doing more. To do this takes experience, hard work, strong relationships across the region, which I have built over many decades, and also to work well in Wellington and to get action. I make it my absolute priority to make sure we do as much as we can for Hastings and this great region that we live and work in. For growing the economy, keeping our community safe, you have highlighted also in selecting your debates tonight, continuing to work closely together with Māori in partnership. For Hawke's Bay, this is important. It is more important than ever, as we've already shown the true grit and spirit of all communities working together. This is how we can ensure our region builds back stronger and more resilient than ever. One example of how we continue to work in partnership with Māori is through our regional economic agency, Matariki, which was established in 2016 by the key government. And it was required to be established under a co-governance model. Today, our regional economic agency, with representatives from our post-settlement groups, iwi members, and our regional leaders across Hawke's Bay, has the role of being able to help our region to go well and to prosper. And it is also playing a key role in our supporting of a locally led, government-supported recovery. 25 years ago in Hastings, we also established the wastewater management plant out in Clyde. That too is a co-governance model and has been working well for years. And it works in partnership with stakeholders. Another, though, more recent one, is our Hawke's Bay Museum that will be storing artefacts and also memories of Hawke's Bay. That too is a co-governance model. But I believe that this shows for years and years we have been doing co-governance and working well together in partnership with Māori. It is important, though, to acknowledge that unfortunately co-governance has created, for mostly those who have not had the opportunity to experience firsthand or learn more about it, heightening uncertainty and some fear of losing or dissolving power of decision-making. I absolutely believe that we will achieve far, far more together sorting out problems and listening to each other's views and ideas. And yes, there are challenges and big issues like health inequities, housing and youth crime, where Māori are disproportionately represented. Our Hastings-based housing plan is another example where we are building affordable homes together in partnership with all stakeholders, including commercial businesses and enterprise. We want people to live in warm, dry homes, not hotels. And we are undertaking the biggest build of housing in my generation in Hastings. The government has also delivered over $32 million for getting pipes in the ground and getting the roads built for new private development. This will see thousands of homes enabled across Havelock North and across Flaxmere and Hastings. It's these things that get things done and build back homes and create jobs and employment and growth for our communities. Now, with this, our government has also invested a record $300 million into Hastings over a range of projects. And we've seen what's been happening in Hastings, how it goes from strength to strength. And it's really important in those places that we grow jobs, because the way into helping people, enabling people, is work. Good jobs, good training, and getting people onto the road of lifetime success and not a road to crime. And it's so important at the same time that we help enable wellbeing in our communities. Take the regional sports park and the aquatics. The government invested $32 million into that sports park for building that regional aquatic centre, which is attracting thousands of people to come and visit Hawke's Bay, compete at international events. I'm not sure if it's working. The best way that we can get our young people on the right path, as I've said, is into work. And today I was out at a place called Building Futures, where the government again is working in partnership, getting our young people into work, into employment, and growing those jobs. I cannot underestimate how significant that is for young people in our community. And the more we do that and the more we embrace that, the better we are as a region. And that takes everybody working together. But we also do need to make sure people are feeling safe in their communities, and we ensure tackling crime will happen at both ends. Labor has increased the police force by 1,800 new police, and we are tackling those hard things that are necessary. We have installed new rules and laws where we will tackle gangs, to search and seize weapons, impound cars, motorbikes and vehicles. And we're introducing a ram raid law. Now, under the ram raid law, there is now an imprisonment of up to 10 years, and the law change will also mean that children who commit ram raids can be charged and tried in the youth court. We must look at getting more police on the beat. The other day I was out looking around, and for 2 weeks I never saw a police officer on the ground, on the beat. They are out there fighting crime and working hard, but I'm absolutely committed to seeing us bringing back our community cops. A huge change from when we closed police stations under National and closed those local community cop shops and never brought them back. They've got to come back. Now, I believe that we also need to get the best out of Hawke's Bay. That's my job. That is what I do absolutely every single day. And when it comes to Hawke's Bay, we have seen the best in us. We have $1 billion coming into this region to now rebuild resilience and build back better and stronger than ever. And we owe it to those people who have suffered and are struggling to do so. That too is going to create jobs, it's going to create opportunities, and today in the media I said we must make sure that those jobs go to locals, local businesses, front and centre, and that again is what I'm committed to do. Thank you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having us here tonight to the Karamu Rotary. It's wonderful to be here at this debate. This election comes for a critical time for Tuki Tuki as we not only face a cost of living crisis and our economy in recession, but the added challenges of a cyclone recovery and rebuild. This is at a time when families and businesses are feeling hardship, with the price of food, rents and mortgages at record highs. Economic mismanagement by this Labour government has driven New Zealand into recession. Inflation and interest rates have risen so fast that a ticking time bomb lies in front of us. Labour's spending over $1 billion more a week than National was when it was in government, but nothing has improved. In fact, we are going backwards. We have potholes all over the roads, declining school attendance and underachievement, growing health waiting lists and escalating crime. Billions of dollars have been wasted on bureaucracy, centralisation and ideological projects that haven't even happened, instead of focusing on our frontline services in our hospitals and in our classrooms. To pay for all the spending, Labour's taxing more, borrowing more. Debt has exploded from $5 billion in 2019 to $71 billion today. This is a credit card spending with your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Servicing debt now is the government's fourth highest expense. The Greens and Labour say we can fix the economy by dragging the bottom up and tearing the top down, and that we all will feel better by punishing the wealthy and taxing our way out of debt. This will only weaken our economy, scare our best and brightest away and divide us more as a country. National has a better way to grow the economy and bring an end to the cost of living crisis. We will stop the wasteful spending and get the books in order. Farmers and growers are the backbone of our economy here, but Labour's obsession with new rules and regulations has put them under siege. We will cut red tape and regulations that are strangling our economy. We will remove Labour's unfair taxes. No more ute tax, no agriculture in the emissions trading scheme. We will stop the tax attack on landlords and renters by restoring interest deductibility and taking the Brightline test back to 2 years. We're going to provide tax relief for hard-working New Zealanders. We will ensure the Reserve Bank is solely focused on inflation. We will say yes to the migrants New Zealand needs to fill acute worker shortages. We will also increase the RSE cap so our growers aren't leaving millions of dollars of export quality fruit to rot on the trees. We will make it easier to attract the international investment our local businesses need to grow. We will build resilient infrastructure and a roading network which is more efficient and drives productivity, including a 4-lane expressway for Hawke's Bay. And we will stop slowing this region down. Trade and exports is my background. I've spent years promoting our premium produce to the world. As a food-producing region, we are reliant on our agriculture exports and should be aspirational for our primary industry businesses. But I've seen firsthand a Labour government which has inflicted a war on our growers and farmers and restricted the growth of our exports, which is so crazy because these are the businesses which will drive our economy out of the debt that this Labour government has got us into. As your next local MP, I will be a strong advocate for our growers, farmers, exporters and businesses to ensure we reduce the cost of living for everyone. Let's come to law and order. Turn on the TV these days and there'll be another crime story, whether it's a gunman in Auckland on home detention, another ram raid, gangs overtaking towns, shootings or murders. Violent crime is up 33%, retail crime is up 45%, and there's a 71% increase in gang membership here in Hawke's Bay. with the ratio of gang members to police the highest in the country. The gangs are fueling the crime and are growing faster here than the police can keep up, which is why we're feeling unsafe in Tukituki. Crime is out of control because Labor has been soft on crime for too long, and National will toughen up. Recently, our dairy in Havelock had an aggravated smash and grab. The other week, I met with a family on the Cornwall Park dairy who had been attacked with an axe and is grateful to be alive. Just yesterday, there was a shooting in Napier and an aggravated burglary. But it shouldn't be like this in Hawke's Bay. We need safer communities where our children and grandchildren can walk to school without fear, where business owners can feel safe in their shops, where families can feel safe in the playground without the intimidation of patched gang members. Crime is real and we need real action now. Under a national government, there will be consequences. Labor's soft on crime experiment will end. National will back police to crack down on crime. We'll ban patches in public. We'll stop gang members from gathering in public. And we'll give police warrantless powers to take the gang's illegal guns. It will also be an aggravating factor in sentencing if you're a gang member. We're going to also crack down on youth crime. We will have military academies for repeat, serious, young offenders. We're also going to restore the 3 strikes policy for serious offenders that Labor got rid of. We will introduce tougher sentences for criminals, more support for victims and more rehabilitation. This Labor government is dividing us as a nation. Urban versus rural, employer versus employee, landlord versus tenant, and most probably, worst of all, Māori versus non-Māori. National will unite our country again, and that includes a strong democracy and strong democratic processes. We believe in one person, one vote, equal citizenship and equal opportunity. National does not support the co-governance of public services. We are one country, and what matters is that we are all New Zealanders getting the services we need. Under National, there will be only one Ministry of Health. Within those departments, there will be a focus on those most in need, including Māori. National will get rid of the Māori Health Authority. We need a single system that will deliver for people on the basis of need. As your next MP for Tukituki, I want to be part of a national government which will strengthen the economy. It has to be 2 ticks blue to get our country and Tukituki back on track.
Thank you, Catherine.
As you know, the ACT Party has always been promoting individual freedoms and personal responsibility. You'll hear promises here today from the other parties about how they can spend your taxpayer dollars. But what you need to remember is that every dollar they promise to spend is a dollar that's taken from hardworking Kiwis like you in this room. Crime is out of control. The gangs are everywhere. And Labor's solution, tag and release. ACT would put victims first and scrap prison reduction targets. We would build more prisons. And we would make rehabilitation compulsory for early release. The cost of living is also out of control, with domestic inflation being the largest contributor. ACT will refocus the Reserve Bank on fighting inflation alone, but we will also cut bureaucrat numbers to 2017 levels, delivering real tax cuts, as well as freeing hardworking Kiwis from those bureaucrats. ACT will also scrap race-based legislation. We won't prioritise less urgent medical care over more urgent medical care based on race. And we will scrap 3 waters and end co-governance. Labor decided, rather than decrease crime by 30%. They would decrease the prison population by 30%. They're soft on crime and criminals know it. And it's caused crime to skyrocket. Acts intended to cause injury up 42%. Serious assaults up 121%. Blackmail and extortion up 263%. And ram raids 465% in 1 year alone. Gang numbers nationwide are up 84%. And ACT uncovered that 90% of prisoners received no rehabilitation in prison last year whatsoever. ACT will, as a starting point, put victims' rights first. We will reintroduce 3 strikes, which ACT brought in, but was scrapped by Labor. And we will legislate new 3 strikes for burglary, because we know it's a recidivist offence which seldom gets punished. So if you're caught 3 times, well, there needs to be some serious consequences. We will bring in compulsory rehabilitation for early release on parole. So you've got to actually do some work to improve yourself, learn to read, get a driver's license, something like that, that actually sees you more suitable to be in society when you are released. We deserve to feel safe on our streets, in our jobs. We need to know that our kids are okay when they're walking down to the dairy or walking to school. It's our right. We need to take it back. I'm a property valuer, and one of my clients the other day got me back in to do a valuation which we'd done for them a couple of years earlier. And he was telling me how his mortgage payments had doubled in the last 2 years. And that when he went to the supermarket, he could barely afford to put food on the table. He was a hard-working Kiwi who bought an affordable home in the cheapest part of town in Flaxmere, barely big enough to fit his whole family in. And yet, this is the kind of guy Labor promised to help. In fact, they named their party after him. All this guy wants, he doesn't want a handout. He just wants a reasonable paying job to keep a fair share of his hard-earned cash, to put food on the table and a roof over his head. These are not unreasonable asks. So what will ACT do about it? We will cut bureaucrat numbers to 2017 levels. Through our fully costed alternative budget, the only party to have one, we will deliver $16 billion in tax cuts over the next 2 years. We will cut tax rates to 17.5% on up to 70,000 and 28% thereafter. And we will replace the RMA with a fit-for-purpose bill that can get the country moving again. ACT's policies will tame inflation, and through improved productivity, we can lift the standards of all New Zealanders, and which means that we can afford a world-class health and education system. The Treaty of Waitangi is our founding document, and it is something that we should be proud of. It should bring us together. Instead, it's being used by this government to categorise us by race and divide us. My wife came home from work the other day, and she came and she was quite worried. There were police on the street and a whole lot of cars. She thought a kid might have got lost or something like that. Then a few hours later, there was a whole lot of tooting and honking in protest at a Julian Bachelor meeting. This is not the kind of division by race that I knew as a kid. It's not the kind of division by race that I want for our future. We need to go forward as a country together. Labor is implementing an agenda of co-governance without New Zealanders' consent. They did not campaign on it. and they have not given us an opportunity to vote on it. And when asked, they refuse to be upfront about their intentions in this area. ACT would repeal legislation with anti-democratic provisions like Three Waters and the Māori Health Authority, and ask Kiwis by way of referendum to define legally the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi as being what is actually written in the treaty document. That the government has the right to govern, that the government will protect people's property rights, and that all citizens have the same rights and duties. If you believe New Zealand deserves a better future, don't vote for more of the same. Vote for real change. The ACT Party, we're keen to work with National, but we will make sure that National don't go back on their election promises, but actually deliver real change for New Zealand, which have seldom been done before. Thank you.
Tuku atu arua, kia rere ki ngā taumata, hai arahi e a tātou mahi me tā tātou whai ngā tikanga a rātou mā. Kia mau, kia ita, kia kore ai ngaro, kia pupuri, kia whakamau ai, kia tīna. Haumi e, hui e, hai ki e, kia ora. Tēnā koutou e hoa mā, ko Nick Ratcliffe tōku ingoa. No Ingarangi a hau, ko Scafell Pike te maunga, ko Tees te awa, ko North Sea te moana. Kararia aku mihi nui ki ngā tūtohu whenua o Te Matoa Māui e noho nei tātou. Ko Ratcliffe te ingoa o tōku whānau, ko Nick Ratcliffe tōku ingoa he kaitono rohe pōti a hau ki te Pāti Kākariki i te rohe a Tukituki. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Ratcliffe, and I am the Green Party candidate for Tukituki. I'm going to make this easy for you. I don't actually want you to vote for me. The battle for Tukituki is between Anna and Catherine, but I do want you to give your party vote to the Greens. With more Green MPs in Parliament, we can set the direction of the next government to deliver the bold action that's required to address climate change, reduce inequality, protect the environment, and uphold Te Tiriti o Waitangi. I've been invited to present the Green Party's position on three big topics, which are actually one big topic. Crime is a product of an inequitable economy, which in turn is a product of the Crown's persistent failure to honour its obligations under He Whakaputanga 1835 and Te Tiriti o Waitangi 1840. Co-governance is one possible model, which, although imperfect, has been proven over the past 10 or 20 years to deliver positive outcomes for people and the environment, while meeting, albeit barely, the Crown's obligations to tangata whenua. When we design policy at the Green Party, we're taking a systems approach that tackles the root cause of the issue that we want to address, while honouring our values and our principles of ecological wisdom, social responsibility, appropriate decision-making, and non-violence, as well as the founding documents of our nation, He Whakaputanga and Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Crucially, our policies are led and backed by actual evidence. Academic literature, royal commissions, independent inquiries, real, solid evidence. We've been an effective coalition partner to the Labour government, but we're always guided by those principles, those kaupapa, and we've had no qualms about joining the opposition in holding Labour to account when they have been in the wrong. The Green Party knows we need a justice system that treats everyone with humanity, dignity, and respect. We successfully pressured the government to remove the American-style three strikes law. With the Green Minister, we've introduced the country's first ever national strategy to eliminate family violence and sexual violence. But more does need to be done. Everyone should feel safe in their homes and communities. For decades, successive governments have created a justice system that's focused on punishment rather than prevention. Essential support services have been underfunded and cut, so that the underlying causes of crime and violence have not only remained unchanged, but in many cases, they've pushed people further into crisis. With more Green MPs, we can make sure that our communities and whānau have the resources they need to thrive, including mental health care, addiction support, affordable homes, and livable income support. We will also create meaningful alternatives to just throwing people in prison. We'll support Māori leadership on justice transformation, and we'll pay for it with a fairer tax system. Right now, Aotearoa is out of balance. A tiny group of about 300 families own almost twice as much wealth as the poorest half of the entire population put together, yet they pay less than half of the effective tax rate as a nurse or a carpenter. Successive governments have set the rules so that we tax work in Aotearoa, but we don't actually tax money. Supermarkets are making excess profits of $1 million per day. Australian-owned banks have made a record $6 billion in the last year. That's real money being sucked out of our economy. While they hoard wealth, thousands of people are forced to struggle to get by, to put food on the table, to pay the bills, and to heat their homes. We have one of the lowest rates of inflation in the OECD, and yet the RBNZ has chosen to engineer a recession so that the 2.5 million working poor, that's the 50% of the population that holds about 5% of the total wealth, are forced to pick up the tab for corporate greed. Everything we need to rebalance wealth and end poverty, I'm going to say that again, we can end poverty, exists in Aotearoa. But only the Green Party will take the bold action required to drive transformative change. We'll rewrite the tax rules and make sure that overseas headquartered corporations and the richest few residents here contribute more so that we can pay for the things that really matter to all of us. As Aotearoa approaches the 50-year anniversary of the Treaty of Waitangi Act, the time is now to reflect on steps to ensure the promise of Te Tiriti is honoured and wrongs are put right. Co-governance is about exercising our rights and responsibilities as Tiriti partners and being able to manaki people and resources through shared decision-making. Previous governing arrangements have been full of broken promises that have led to historical distrust in Crown Māori relationships, as well as the separation of tangata whenua from their ancestral lands and homes, their economic base, and areas of cultural significance. Partnerships can work, and we can see this through dozens of examples around the country, where iwi, hapu, councils, schools, entire churches, government departments are all working together to improve their outcomes and performance. The Green Party knows that co-governance partnerships are not the final goal, but it is a start in ensuring that the Crown upholds tino rangatiratanga and honours Te Tiriti. We can begin to heal our past and put us on a path of making Aotearoa more equitable. Mate Mai gives Aotearoa New Zealand 15 years to draw up a written constitution that is A, grounded in he whakaputanga and Te Tiriti o Waitangi, B, can outlive the political parties that are represented here tonight, and C, can outlive the Crown. Thank you for creating this opportunity for us to debate this kaupapa tonight, but this is a conversation that we need to be having all year, every year, from now until 2040, with tangata whenua as our equal tiriti partner. Through honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi and restoring the relationship between tangata whenua, the Crown, and tauiwi, Aotearoa New Zealand can be a place where all people can thrive. Ko tēnei te wā kia whakatika. Now is the time to make it right. Now is the time to party vote green.
I'm going to ask, we'll run with the same order. No, we'll reverse the order. You're up, Nick, and I'm going to limit you to 3 minutes. Shouldn't be difficult.
Yeah, so the Green Party is going to support your employees with a $10,000 tax-free threshold on the first $10,000 that they earn every year, and we're going to reinforce the social safety net with a $385 per week income guarantee so that nobody can fall through the gaps.
Look, as a small business owner, I understand the complexities and things that you juggle. Certainly, I think the employment balance between employee and employer can be very difficult in a situation where you have an employee that may not be necessarily producing what you need. The process is weighted heavily against the employer at the moment. That needs to be balanced so that we can get the people into the jobs that they're actually productive at, and that'll lift the overall standard of our economy and mean that we can get our economy back in some form of track. In terms of mitigating the costs that a business faces, well, look, this is exactly what we're all about. You know, I mean, I'm a part-time property developer with a bit of help from Andrew Taylor over wherever he is. I understand the barriers involved. You know, I'm currently working on a subdivision where it's taken 18 months to jump through some paperwork in order to do a subdivision which is fully permitted by the plan, where the council services are perfectly adequate and there's no major contours or particular issues that need to be resolved. This is stuff that should be reasonably rubber stampable. Instead, it's taken 18 months of paperwork, and yet we're going to see only 2 to 3 months of actual physical development, weather permitting, which is not playing its part at the moment, but you know what I mean. This is all out of whack, and what it does is it increases the cost of our housing, it increases the burdens on our economy, and it means that you know, your kids and your grandkids are really going to struggle to be able to afford to buy a home. Just in interest costs alone, we're looking at $10,000 of extra cost per section, and there's a heck of a lot of extra cost in terms of meeting that bureaucratic burden.
Look, I've already touched on it a little bit there, but I think by growing our businesses here in Hawke's Bay, we create a stronger economy. So it's absolutely pivotal that we are supporting businesses to do business, farmers to farm, growers to grow, so that we can really get the wheels moving in the economy and we can create more jobs and opportunities. But at the moment, we are punishing those businesses with huge costs, regulation, compliance, paperwork, red tape. The list goes on and on. I saw it every day in my job. It's so hard to get the wheels moving at the moment. And look, we've had a massive cyclone. It's devastated so many businesses here in our region. It's caused $3.5 billion worth of damage to our horticulture sector. When that sector is propping up 7,000 jobs, we're actually really going to see a massive flow-on effect here in Hawke's Bay, and we're not quite seeing it yet, but even I was just in a business the other day and half the office was empty because they're not replacing the jobs. So it's going to be really tough, and so that's why we need a government that is going to strengthen the economy and reduce the cost of living, because everyone is really, really feeling it tough at the moment. But coming back to small business and medium-sized businesses, I mean, we've also had fair pay agreements come through, which is another thing that's really, really difficult for medium and small businesses. And, you know, we really need to make it easier for these businesses so that they can create the jobs that we need here. But I also look at the cost that we're putting on businesses. I mean, I worked in horticulture and we're shipping boxes of apples to the world, but it's becoming so costly to produce that box of apples, but we're not getting any more for it in the market. Yet our competitors are producing that same box of apples overseas in those markets a lot cheaper than we can here, because we've had a government that's really just put a lot of compliance and red tape on business. Just the other day, I was out with a business that milks sheep, actually, and they create cheeses. And they really, really want to expand their business and grow the exports here in Hawke's Bay. But they said that the auditing process that they were going to have to go through under this government was going to cost them another $150,000. So they said no, they're not going to expand their business. And so there we are, losing valuable millions of dollars of exports that could be going into our economy here and growing our jobs and strengthening our economy.
I've been a small business owner for 20 years. I have the most passion for this region and what we can do, and I'm hearing everything that's negative and wrong. I believe in backing business in this region. We are seeing $1 billion coming into our region to grow jobs and rebuild the infrastructure that we've lost. We have to upskill our people and get them into work. I want to see local businesses and local industry getting that work. And this is our opportunity. Yes, we've been hit hard, but I can tell you, we have to get up and we have to build back, and we need to work together to make that happen. That's what's good about doing business in the Bay. That's how we grow our local economy and we grow good paying jobs. When it comes to fair pay agreements, Australia has always had fair pay agreements. And if you're a good employer and you get the basics right, you have nothing to worry about fair pay agreements. It's people and investing in them. Performance matters, but so do people. And there are so many great people out there doing great stuff. We've got a business magazine full of absolutely fantastic stuff that businesses do in the Bay. And supporting those businesses, making sure government is bringing money in here and backing those businesses like we have with over $300 million, a record amount of money coming into Hastings to back our regional economy. Now that is helping build infrastructure, creating jobs in civil works, things that get kids excited, young people into work and redeployment. Yes, we might not be picking as many apples, but we're absolutely going to have those people on our tractors, on our diggers and on our rollers, building roads and building back resilience. We have an opportunity. Just let's take it. When we had the inquiry, we had some people from the wool industry come in with an example of a wool tile, because one of the most important things when you are laying carpet into schools is tiling, because if something goes wrong or there's damaging on the carpet, they can whip up the tile and they can replace it. He brought it into the select committee and I asked him, why is that tile, that woolen tile, not available to be done in New Zealand? And he said to me, we don't have the manufacturing to be able to produce that wool in a tile in mass to go into our schools. Because I absolutely agree that we should be putting our wool products into our school buildings and also into our houses. And so so they said they need to go and either build it, produce them in overseas, in China, or in India, because we do not have that manufacturing capability here. That's the issue that we had with that, and we need to look at how we can support business to have those manufacturing opportunities to be able to use wool products. It's that simple.
Coming from a farm myself and growing up on a farm where, we had a lot of sheep and wool, and, it used to be a very, very profitable industry here in New Zealand, but obviously, over the years, it's become really, really hard for farmers. And I know my dad and my father-in-law now say it actually costs more to shear the sheep than it does your wool check, when the wool check used to be really, really high. So, we've got a lot of work in New Zealand to turn things around on the wool front. and make sure that it becomes profitable again. And part of that is marketing our New Zealand wool, not only in New Zealand, but to the world. And National is going to back our farmers, we're going to back our primary industries, and we'll make sure that we are looking at better marketing of wool. But just on that note with Labor, I mean, they are so focused on getting plastics and everything out of the supermarkets that it was really interesting decision that they made around putting plastic on the floor in every rural school.
Yeah, I was never the best docker or sharer, but look, I think it's interesting for a government that has paid no respect for spending public money. All of a sudden on this one, they go for the cheapest product. And also a government that has no qualms about sort of interfering in markets and investing in a way that they didn't invest in their own rural community. What I would say is that the current government is putting one barrier after another in front of farmers. Uncertain paperwork rules, uncertainty caused by I waka hiki noa, freshwater standards that are so general that they actually don't necessarily...
We're on Gardens, boss, and we're on time.
They don't actually achieve the outcomes they wanted, because in some areas it's actually not a problem. So what, ute taxes where there's no actual practical alternative.
And we're going to...
I certainly do. I come from not far from Romney Marsh, in fact, where all of our best wool sheep come from. Yes, the Romneys. Yes, that's the one.
There you go.
Thank you. Look, as somebody who studied agriculture overseas, and I'm fully aware of New Zealand's fantastic reputation for producing top-notch wool in an environmentally sustainable way. Thank you for raising the carpet tiles issue. I just want to note that Christopher Luxon and National fully backed the decision to go with the cheap plastic tiles over there. I read the newspaper, I saw it. The only person standing with the farmers there was Tiana Tuiono from the Green Party, so you're welcome. Anna's right about manufacturing, but there's no plan to this economy. We just kind of throw everything up in the air and hope that market forces will take care of it. There's no long-term plan. If you've got farmers producing world-quality wool that's going to be marketed as a premium product overseas, you do need the manufacturing there. So you need to incorporate that into your political plan, into your economic plan. We see it in the timber industry, but this guy's getting pretty close to me at the moment. But our agriculture is the envy of the world, and we should be proud of it, and we should be getting a premium overseas.
Can I just ask a question about biosecurity? I think it's really important for our area in Hawke's Bay. So the government has recently announced eradication of Mycoplasma bovis, and they've been working with federated farmers on that. I have to declare my conflict of interest as a former Fonterra employee. So I'm just wanting the candidates to explain what their things are going forward for biosecurity. We've had kiwi fruit issues. Does MPI, Ministry of Primary Industry, come under wasteful spending? What are their thoughts going forward? Bill English didn't want to eradicate Mycoplasma bovis. Thank you.
The relatively recent Mycoplasma bovis incursion was well handled, as I remember. Again, our reputation as an agricultural exporter hinges on our biosecurity, our environmental sustainability. It's the envy of the world. So let's keep on at that.
I'm incredibly proud of the level of investment that the Labor government has put into biosecurity. To me, it is one of the biggest enemies that we face as a country, and I can absolutely tell you through true facts that it has been the Labor government that has invested far more into biosecurity than any other government has. And I think that shows how much we need and want to protect our borders and making sure that we don't, and I'm absolutely thrilled that we've actually eradicated Mycoplasma bovis. It's huge for our country.
Yeah, no, I actually for once actually do agree with the left here. I mean, biosecurity is so important. It's so important to Hawke's Bay and to Tuki Tuki. I've sat on the board of New Zealand Apples and Pears for the past 3 years, and biosecurity is one of the biggest issues to our sector, whether it be the fruit fly, the brown beetle bug. There's so many threats to our apple crop here, and we need to make sure that we are working really, really hard, and MPI and our government departments are working really, really hard to protect our borders to ensure that we don't get any of those pests into the country. So I'm well aware of it. I'll be advocating for Hawke's Bay and our region, and I do have a bit of a background in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, it's unanimous. We all agree we've got to protect the border, and we need to spend what we need to spend on that. It's just one of those areas.
Thank you. I am going off to celebrate excellence in exporters. It's a job I do as being the local MP, and I absolutely love the fact that we can celebrate the achievements of exporting from an exporting region and all the businesses that are involved. Thank you for having me, and I just want to ask you to vote for me as your local MP. I work tooth and nail for this region. I work for all of Tuki Tuki because we're a land of plenty, and I want to see us continue to thrive and have strong advocacy here from the region so we can keep doing more and grow everything with good jobs. Thank you.
Look, as a mother of 4 children, I'm really, really passionate about education. At the moment, we are seeing a huge failure in performance in education in New Zealand, rightly point out. We're seeing basically half of our year 8 students can't pass a basic reading or writing test at the moment. And 98% of our decile 1 and 2 high school students can't pass a basic reading and writing test. We are failing our most vulnerable children at the moment, and we need to turn that around. And a national government is going to be really committed to education. We've had a government that has spent $5 billion on education in the past 6 years, and what have we got to show from it? An absolutely failing education system, like you've rightly pointed out. So we've actually produced some really good policy. We believe that we need to get back to basics in reading, writing and maths, and teach the basics brilliantly. It sounds really simple, but we're actually going to make it compulsory in primary and intermediate schools to teach an hour of reading, an hour of writing and an hour of maths every day, because at the moment there's so much more going on in the curriculum that we're not actually focusing on the basics. And if we can't get our kids out of school reading and writing and doing maths properly, we're really going to be failing a whole generation, whether that's business, whether that's people. And whether education is the pathway to a job, success and opportunity in our country, we have to get it right, and we will get it right under a national government.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to end up having to speak on behalf of the government this evening, but here I am.
And we are very grateful.
Oh, that's all right. It's my absolute pleasure. No, it's an honour to be here.
Very grateful.
Thank you. Nick Ratcliffe, father of 2. They go to the local primary school. Thank you for your service, sir. Son of a teacher, grandson of 2 teachers. So, yeah, education's obviously important to me. Also, apprentice carpenter, still learning. Every day's a school day, right? We've just had a massive overhaul of how we deliver education in particularly in primary schools. Whoever wins this election, the last thing, speaking to my kids' teachers, the last thing that they're going to need after the election is another overhaul of the system, right? The system that's just come out, and it's new learning, it involves the parents, it involves us, and it looks like it's a really good system. We need to give it a few years to, see how it pans out, but it's looking really good. It's evidence-based. Like I said, my kids are in there too, and I'm looking forward to it. The other thing is, if we are failing on the metrics, there's a big issue. How many kids are going to school with empty bellies, without a good night's sleep, sick as dogs because they're growing up in cold, damp, drafty houses. We have to fix the root causes. We have to address poverty. We have to address inequality so that everybody actually gets a fair and equal chance when they do get to school. Okay? Kia ora.
Thank you, Catherine, for pointing out all the failures. There's certainly a heck of a lot in the system, so I'll leave that to Catherine's comments. But what I would say in terms of what ACT would do about the problem is that in return for the billions of dollars that the government puts into education, we would actually make schools report to us by 9:30 a.m. every day whether a student has turned up or not. Every single student in the country, well, we want to know, have you turned up? And if they haven't turned up, then we wouldn't pay the school for that student's non-attendance. So there's actually all of a sudden going to be some sort of incentive there for the school to actually round the kids up and get them there. But we're also going to look at it, we're going to categorise these kids into, temporary, occasional non-attendance, a regular non-attendance, and, an ongoing problem. And where there is an ongoing problem, we're actually going to have the data there to be able to analyse it and do something about it, because we can't teach these kids if they're not in the classroom, and we need to teach the kids. It's what's going to decide our future. We're also going to create a curriculum that is rich with information that you need for the 21st century. So we're not going to just simply go, okay, 1 + 1. We're going to go, what do actually businesses need in this new world that we live in? We're going to teach, we're not going to strip out subjects like chemistry, physics and biology and say, hey, you're going to study them through the lens of climate change and pandemics. But we are going to actually empower teachers and principals in the classroom to decide what is right for their kids in their classroom, rather than being dictated how they're going to do it by bureaucrats in Wellington. And we're going to test it to see if it actually works and have proper results-based education system.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were pretty keen on a special sort of school. What was it? What was the term? Charter schools. Do you want to make a comment on that, or is that, please?
Yeah, look, that's right. We're going to have the funding for education actually follow the pupil. So, in the same way as it'll follow the pupil if you turn up, it'll follow the pupil to wherever they decide they want to go. So we potentially have 3 models. A private model where actually, yes, there will be funding from the state if you want to send a kid to a private school. Public schools, same way, but also chartered schools, which are a kind of blend, which is a sort of state-based private school, but often helps those communities, those people that are most disadvantaged. And we saw absolutely fantastic success in chartered schools while they were in place, until they were unfortunately scrapped by the current Labor government.
Oh, first of all, I just want to thank all the candidates for coming tonight and allowing us to hear you. My question is to all the candidates. Just a couple of points I wanted to have asked was about the crime and the rehabilitation, because for me, it's a lot of our whānau that are in the prisons, and some of the stereotypical language tonight of gangs and that, and one of the candidates used, we've got to protect our best at the top. And if I use examples of our best that are at the top, businesses, and the reason this is a little bit of a long-winded, sorry, but one of the best at the top was an influential Sir James Wallace, I think, who committed a very serious crime, and he was one of the most influential businessmen. And then one of the other candidates mentioned that rehabilitation starts with teaching them how to read and write, which kind of confused me.
For me, it's really about, we've got a really big problem, and it doesn't just sit with Māori or gangs. There's P that is rife in our community, and it doesn't exclude anybody in this room. It will end up on everybody's doorstep. I want to know what the current candidates think that they can do to help all of us address that, because none of you want that in your families. Kia ora.
Great question, Heather. Look, rehabilitation is clearly going to be critical, and also getting gangs or drugs off the street, which I think is really a case of tackling gangs. If we don't tackle gangs, which are supplying the vast majority of drugs, then we're going to have an ongoing problem. So, look, let's tackle those, and hopefully that'll help the rest of the process. But yeah, look, I mean, people have to be in a better place when they're coming out of prison than they were when they go in. And at the moment, there's 90% of prisoners last year received no rehabilitation in prison whatsoever. And that's a shocking indictment on a system that's actually meant to not only penalise people, but put them back in society. And at some stage, we know they're going to be released back into society. And we need to ensure that when they come back into society, they have something that they can contribute. And if they've not got a driver's licence, so they get picked up at the next police stop, thrown back into the system, that's not good. It's not good for anyone. Certainly not good for the gang member or the criminal.
Heather, I'd also just like to acknowledge you too, because I know that you were going to be a candidate here for the election. For whatever reason, obviously that didn't happen. So, great that you're here tonight and asking the questions. But I suppose, obviously I opened there and, talked quite highly about gangs and gangs being a real problem here in Hawke's Bay. We're seeing one of the highest gang memberships here in the country in Hawke's Bay, 71% increase. And we are also seeing the gang increase rising faster than police can keep up in terms of cracking down on the gangs. And I suppose when gangs are they are fueling the drug issues, and we know that, and they are fueling those addictions, which is then obviously fueling the rise in crime that we're seeing. We do believe that we need to really crack down on the gangs, and by doing that, we're saying, look, let's stop them from congregating in public, because that's obviously where they recruit the prospects and recruit more gang members. And then we're going to equip the police with more tools to be able to do that. But then, rightly so, to the point around rehabilitation, it is important that we are rehabilitating people and getting them on positive pathways. And at the moment, not all prisoners and not all people have access to those rehabilitation programs. And so under a national government, we're saying we're going to open up those rehabilitation programs, because we think that it's really, really important that if you want the opportunity to change your life and turn it around, we want to give it to you. But then if you don't choose to do that and you choose to reoffend over and over again, well, we're going to say there are going to be tougher consequences. And I'm talking to prison officers actually at the door quite often at the moment when I'm out door knocking, and they are saying that we have got a real problem at the moment, and we do need to really get on top of our rehabilitation programs. And as Rob rightly said, we've had a Labor government that's been really targeting reducing the prison population by 30%, which is great if we can reduce crime by 30%, but we're just currently not getting on top of that. So we do need to have a balance between obviously cracking down on crime, but also rehabilitating people so that they can go on a more positive pathway in their life.
Yeah, Tanakwe, Heather, thank you for your excellent question. Look, this is a topic that affects me personally. We have P in my family. It's hurt my family, and it's horrible. gangs thrive on poverty and a lack of connection and a lack of community. So again, we need to look at the root causes. Yeah, reduce the wealth gap, end poverty. Everything we need to end poverty is in Aotearoa right now. Yeah, we can actually do it. Not tackle poverty, not reduce poverty, end it. Yeah. Drugs also a cause of disenfranchisement, lack of connection to community, to society. The Greens will resource evidence-based rehabilitation for anyone convicted of a drugs offence and ensure tikanga-based and restorative justice solutions such as Te Pai Oranga. That restorative justice as well, that's essential because that not only addresses the criminal, but also people who have been harmed by the crime. And we also need to expand specialist youth courts like the Rangatahi and Pacifica courts throughout Aotearoa. Kia ora, tēnā koe.
Kia ora koutou katoa. I have a question on climate change. So what are your policies to support communities, businesses, farmers and growers to be ready for climate change and future climate disasters?
No idea what I'm going to say. Oh no, I don't have to go first on the climate change question, do I? Yeah, what are we going to do for communities? Particularly pertinent topic here in Tukituki this election. Kind of surprised it's not on the bill for this evening. It is the big one, right? This is the climate change election. We've just had what's been described as a 1 in 500 year event happened with Cyclone Gabrielle. But we know that it's going to be more frequent than that moving forward. One of the things that the Green Party has been warning of since our inception is that what climate change actually means is increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events. Okay, so that's climate change, that's Cyclone Gabrielle, Cyclone Hale, and, but not just wet weather, hot weather. We might have a drought ahead of us. We need to be resilient to all climate change events. Tēnā koe, Emma. What we really saw in the response, the immediate response following Cyclone Gabrielle, was community response. We were let down by some of our government agencies. We were let down by some of our larger NGO sector. And what really got us through that very difficult period was small communities pulling together, organisations like the Environment Centre, Marae stepping up and really doing the hard mahi there. So it actually demonstrated that we have resilient communities already in Te Mātou Maui, and we should all applaud ourselves and each other for that. So.
I think we actually had a recent Prime Minister who said climate change was going to be her big nuclear moment. When, what have we seen? Not a lot of delivery when it comes to climate change. Again, no outcome, no delivery. Great to have big PR slogans, but actually what we want is delivery and outcomes when it comes to climate change. National signed up to the Paris Agreement in 2015 to meet our climate change obligations. But the way that we're going to get there is quite different, because we're not saying that we're actually going to cut off production in New Zealand when we're the most carbon efficient farmers and agriculture producers in the world. That is not the way to reach our climate targets and give that competition to our competitors offshore. We're saying let's look at powering up, electrifying New Zealand. And so we're saying we want to invest in renewable energy and move away from fossil fuels. So we absolutely are committed to renewable energy, solar, water, sun, and building solar farms, hydro dams, but at the moment it takes 10 years to get a resource consent. We're saying we're going to bring the resource consenting back to 1 year, and we're going to electrify New Zealand with renewable energy and cut our emissions a lot faster and meet our climate change targets.
Look, we don't want to cripple our economy in order to meet a climate goal which is 99.9% probably determined by the rest of the world. So what we would do, though, is we would match our emissions reduction commitments made by our 5 top trading partners, and we would use the emissions trading scheme solely as the mechanism to fight carbon emissions. We would repeal things like the ute tax, which actually doesn't have any material effect on the nation's carbon production, because what it does is by someone reducing their emissions by buying a Tesla, it makes the emissions cheaper for someone else to buy, and so they no longer take out the Fonterra coal plant and reduce their emissions that way. So actually it's self-defeating. It's very expensive. The likes of the scrapping old cars at up to $10,000 a pop. It's crazy. It'll cripple our economy through taxation. But in terms of the Cyclone Gabriel and the effects on growers and whatnot that we saw, look, I actually haven't got a massive problem with the loan subsidy type scheme that Labor brought out the other day. But what I don't want to see is the kind of abuse of the system that we saw with COVID-19 and the subsidies that went on there. Because you talk to any accountant and they will tell you how badly that system was abused. Labor's scheme is very, very vague, lacks any detail or any proper checks that can keep control on that spend.
Yeah, look, so Hawke's Bay beef and lamb, we are producing some of the most climate, environmentally balanced meat on the planet, right? I grew up in the UK. Yeah, when I say that Hawke's Bay agriculture is the envy of the world, I mean it, across the board. I grew up in the UK. When you go to Sainsbury's and buy your New Zealand lamb, it has a lower carbon emissions footprint than locally produced stuff, even though it's travelled halfway across the world, because we use traditional, extensive agricultural systems here rather than the intensive fertilised systems that tend to be used in UK and Europe. In terms of electrification, tackling climate change by electrifying the economy, that's what the clean car rebate scheme is actually about. The transport, a vast proportion of our emissions come from transport, not energy. Our electricity grid is already 82% renewable and rising. Let's keep building solar farms, let's keep building wind farms, but what we actually need to be focusing on, if we... A little dam? Yeah, I mean in Europe, in Europe, little? No, I mean, I've been to France. In France, farmers are subsidised to have their own little dams on the farm. Hold water in the landscape. Think about it. So yeah.
Firstly, I need to declare my conflict of interest. I actually do work in the health sector. I work in 2 platforms. I work as a registered nurse and in the commissioning space. I do have a question. So I do hear about the removal of the Māori Health Authority. Right now, I am experiencing grinding pain, and I do see that Labor had a targeted focus to address 2 things within our health system. 1, that is to honour the Treaty of Waitangi, and 2, it is to address the health inequities for our Māori. What I want to know is, with the removal of the Māori Health Authority, are we saying that we will revert back to the old infrastructure of our health system? And does that actually work? I'm not too sure. So what I'm wanting to know, in the removal of the Māori Health Authority, with the efforts of addressing health inequities for Māori, especially, what is the intention? What is this great, huge left-wing thing that you're going to do that Labor did? I don't know if I agree with it wholeheartedly, because the results of that are yet to come. So what I'm wanting to know is, in the removal of the Māori Health Authority, what is going to be the response? And especially when I look at a health system that is already under huge pressure. And so when we're talking about rehabilitation, okay, rehabilitation requires a clinical lens when you're looking at safety, and clinical safety for people that are in prisons or outside of prisons. So if we are a system that's already under pressure in providing clinical counselling, social services, how are we going to provide that?
Yeah, okay, no, that's fine. So, so to your point, I mean, totally appreciate we've got a health system in crisis at the moment. It's at its knees. We've got record ED wait times, we've got record surgical wait times. It is really bad. And we've had a government, Labor, decided to centralise the health system, spend $12 billion on doing it, create layers and layers of bureaucracy, consultants, managers, you name it, when actually we needed resources and funding on the front line with our doctors and with our nurses. And part of that bureaucracy that they created was the Māori Health Authority. And we're really pushing at the moment to try and get the report, and Shane Retty has asked the Minister many, many times to give us that report so we can see the outcomes from the Māori Health Authority, because we don't believe that it has achieved its goals at all in terms of looking after Māori better within the health system. We're saying that actually that should be achieved by having one health system, one Health New Zealand, which looks after everyone based on need. And our focus is going to be putting health funding into the front line with our doctors and nurses. And one of the biggest challenges at the moment is labour shortages. We are 3,500 nurses short. We're 1,800 doctors short. So National's saying we're going to get more nurses trained. We're going to be more flexible around our immigration settings so that we can bring more nurses in and relieve those waiting lists. We're going to build another medical school in Waikato and train 250 more doctors a year so we can also relieve the wait list. It's good practical policy that we believe is going to make a real difference in our health system.
Look, as a property valuer, when valuing commercial property in Hawke's Bay, I see it every time I'm valuing a large building. It's almost inevitably tenanted by a government department. And it's blimmin' worrying. It didn't used to be this way. It was not this way 7, 8 years ago. It has got this way under Labor. That is not how you fix people's hearts or legs. So what would ACT do? Look, for a start, there's a range of things that we need to do, but we'd have a look at Farmac's operating model for greater transparency and timeliness in decision making. We would publicly subsidise more common elective surgeries through competitive tender between private and public hospitals. So whoever can do it most efficiently will be where we put that resource. And we've seen how absolutely efficient the private sector is in building infrastructure in recent years with the likes of extensions to Royston and the new Kaweka Hospital. We would support the continuation of reducing DHBs to effectively 6, establish a much better pathway to accreditation, and ACT released a massive policy document on that yesterday, which tackled comparable sort of immigration settings, qualifications. Look, if you've got someone with 2 legs and two arms in China, they're probably going to be pretty similar to fix as someone with 2 legs and 2 arms here. And we'd establish a national IT platform for better patient management. And look, one other thing, just on mental health, because it hasn't been touched on at all tonight, we would establish a mental health and addiction New Zealand, which would be a single body where at a national scale, empowering patients to choose from a range of services rather than just being able to choose the service that happens to be funded by their local DHB.
Yeah, I mean, the Green Party fully supports by Māori, for Māori solutions everywhere. We're not just honouring Te Tiriti, we're led by it. We've had our own constitutional transformation to make sure that we are actually being led by Te Tiriti. It's the first question we ask when we consider anything. Our plan is to empower and resource the Māori Health Authority, so yeah, no, right. To work in an equal partnership together with the Ministry of Health to whātua ora and to improve outcomes for whānau, hapu, iwi and hapori. But also, and I keep coming back to this, you might have noticed, wealth inequality. We still have only 2% of the wealth in the country is held by the poorest 50%. Kids are going to school with empty tummies. People are getting sick because they're living in cold, drafty, mouldy, damp homes. We need a warrant of fitness for houses so that people can be healthier. That in itself will take pressure off the health system. Yeah, if you lift up the health of the community, then there is less stress on the health system.
You want to just go on from there into your summing up because I think you're on a theme.
Yeah. No. Oh, cool.
You have me totally.
No, you're right. Yeah, there is a theme. There is a theme. Yeah. Oh, you start. Okay, straight into closing. Very well. Yeah. So. Not just honouring Te Tiriti, being led by Te Tiriti, that's co-governance, as I said when I opened, is one example of how that can look. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a start at addressing the Crown's inequities that have been failed to uphold Te Tiriti over the last 180 years. We've got a very solid document produced independently, mati ke mai, by consultation with hapori, with community, with rangatahi, with hapu and iwi, to determine what our constitutional transformation needs to look like. And we do need constitutional transformation. There is going to be a day when the Crown isn't here anymore. And we need to have a written constitution in place that is fair for tangata tiriti, that's most of us in the room here, and tangata whenua, that upholds he whakaputanga 1835, look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi 1840. Te Tiriti o Waitangi 1840, get English. Hello? Yeah, so if you don't speak Te Reo, get an English translation of the Te Reo copy of the Tiriti, because that is the one that's internationally recognised. That's the one that was signed by over 500 rangatira on and after the 6th of February 1840. There is another copy doing the rounds. It's only got 40 signatures on it, and it was introduced later in 1840. Under slightly spurious pretenses. The easy way to tell the difference between them is the real one has 4 clauses and is in Te Reo Māori, and the faulty one is only in English and only has 3 clauses.
Became a republic, and the Crown no longer existed. Where do the Green Party stand on the treaty? And what would they do?
Yeah, that is a really important question, and not just where would the Green Party stand, but where would Aotearoa New Zealand stand? Exactly. Yeah. So again, this is the importance of getting a written constitution in place. Mati Ke Mai was released in 2015. And yeah, that strongly recommends that we have a written constitution in place by 2040.
Where are we going to hit? What's going to happen?
What's going to happen if we become a republic before 2040?
Yeah, or whenever that particular document, a constitution is signed.
Yeah, that question is way above my pay grade. But what's important is that, we don't just have this conversation at election time, that we're constantly trying new ways of there's a million different ways that we can honour the treaty, that we structure our political parties, the way we structure the government, the way we structure our councils. So again, the importance of having a written constitution as soon as possible. Matikamai gives us till 2040, absolute latest, earlier if possible. So yeah, really? Is it going to work now? Oh, cool. Hold it. No, it doesn't. Yeah. So the important thing is to have the conversations, work out what we want, have adult conversations like this, where multiple people are debating it and we've got a bit of back and forth going. There's one guy on tour at the moment who's just doing a lecture on the wrong copy of Te Treaty, and that's unhelpful. But having these open debate type forums is a really good way to determine. The only thing that's missing from this conversation is tangata whenua. That's crucial to have tangata whenua. It doesn't help that the local MP's not here either. That's a very good point. But yeah, more importantly than that, tangata whenua.
Well, this election, the choice is clear. New Zealanders can vote for parties that use tax as punishment and that load more and more cost on fewer shoulders. Or they can vote for a national-led government that will always strive to let you keep more of what you earn, that will value work and celebrate effort. You can vote for careful investment that grows stronger families and communities. Or you can vote for more growth of government agencies, bureaucrats, and the red tape that they create. You can vote for policies that will push more and more of our kids to become citizens in Australia, or for a national party that will fight to ensure this country and our kids can live in it and have their dreams made. You can stick with what we have today, a damaged economy that is failing its people, or you can vote national for a stronger economy that delivers for you and your family. Red lights are flashing for the New Zealand economy and New Zealanders' livelihoods. Wherever you look, it's a shambles. Gangs shutting down towns, ram raids every 10 hours as crime is out of control, education performance at all-time lows as 50% of our kids aren't attending school regularly, and a health system broken and at its knees, and a country divided. We cannot endure another Labour government. This will be an election that will shape the future of New Zealand. And the choice is clear. It's 3 more years of economic mismanagement and chaos under Labour, the Greens and Te Pāti Māori, or you can vote national for a strong government which is focused on our economy. A strong economy can afford the things we all want: more accessible health services, better education for every child, more environmental protection, better highways, resilient infrastructure, safer roads and safer streets. Labour will give you excuses, National will give you results. As your National Party candidate for Tuki Tuki, I believe I have strong, practical, commercial experience to deliver in a national government which will get New Zealand back on track. I'm an extremely hard worker. I care about people and getting results for Tuki Tuki. We have a cyclone recovery and rebuild on our hands, and we need strong leadership and strong delivery from central government, which is another reason why we need a national government, which will back provincial New Zealand, our primary industries and our businesses here, so we can lift incomes for all and keep providing opportunity. I have aspiration for Hawke's Bay and for Tuki Tuki. As your next MP, I will work tirelessly for Tuki Tuki to ensure we get the wheels moving and get results. This election is looking tight. We're going to change. If we're going to change this government, National needs a strong party vote majority so we can deliver. We can't risk strategic voting this time. So if you genuinely want to change the direction that this country is heading in, party vote National and Catherine Wedd for Tuki Tuki.
Who here thinks we're going in the right direction? Okay, righto. We know we're looking for change here. Look, we have a massive job. We've got a series of reforms that need to be done, the like of which we haven't seen since the mid-1980s. And I guess I've got some family credentials in terms of dealing with this. Look, we're going to, as a 100-day package, I just want to show you a little bit of what this looks like. We want to repeal 3 waters, returning ownership to councils, repeal the Māori Health Authority, return the Reserve Bank to fighting inflation targets, scrap the 39% tax rate, and we should simplify the tax system to a two-tax bracket system. Repeal the Zero Carbon Act, which taxes utes and subsidises Teslas. Mortgage interest deductibility and the Bright Line test scrapped, gone. Residential tenancies changes would go. Bring back 90-day trials. Bring back 3 strikes. Bring back chartered schools. Get rid of so-called fair pay agreements. And importantly, Oranga Tamariki section 7AA, where Māori children are pulled out of protective Pākehā families and returned based on cultural needs rather than the child's needs. And that's just a sample of what we've got lined up for the first 100 days.
You gonna bring back Buck?
And we'll bring back Buck. Look, I'm sitting 16 on the ACT Party list. It's a credible position to get in. And so you can have a second local MP really representing your values locally here in Hawke's Bay through an ACT tick, party vote ACT tick. You can vote with Catherine if you want. But sadly, look, we actually need to change the direction of this government. There's no point changing our banner from red to blue and keeping the same policies that we've always had. New Zealand is getting further and further behind the rest of the Western world. Under John Key's government, we went from $11,000 to $17,000 behind Australia in median wage. Labor has taken that from 17,000 to 23,000. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect different results. The ACT Party is the only party in Parliament with any MPs with an economics degree. You heard here tonight the other parties promising about how they can spend your money better. Well, how many chances are you going to give them? We need real change, and ACT is the only party with a robust economic plan and a true vision for real change. I ask you this: what failed Labor policy has National ever reversed? The ACT Party has an extremely high calibre of MPs in our top 20, David Seymour obviously, but names like Andrew Hoggard, Todd Stevenson, Cameron Luxton and Antonio Medova. If you believe that New Zealand deserves more, then please give your party vote to ACT.